This ruined Sunday Night Football for me. I did not want to watch, even though it was great to see Kellen Moore's offense make Bobby look stupid in scoring 10 points against the Baltimore Ravens. I dropped a massive F-bomb when that 59-yard field goal was freaking kicked. And Jim Nantz had built me up like, oh my gosh, this is tough for Tony Romo. This is nearly impossible. They're just going backwards. I was so happy. Jason Kelce was making Cowboy-like stupid mental mistakes. And Jalen Hurts ends up winning it with the walk-off touchdown, his 5th of the game. The Eagles survive again. Bobby, this was the 4th straight week that they went into halftime trailing and then got the W. 4th straight week.
That's lucky. That is not sustainable. You can't do that consistently. It's going to catch up to them. They are the 2022 Vikings. That was a take that I originated. Yeah, I tagged you in the post. There was one of the guys from like Football Guys or PFF had said similarly, made the same thing. I'm starting a movement here that this is the 2022 Vikings.
Well, I think Tolo Chris Navarre, which by the way, disagreeing with me on my vacuum take, you traitor. I think you need to make a separation here. The way that the games are ending up is very Viking-like in terms of the comebacks. You're not saying that the Eagles team is the same quality as the Vikings team, because I'm losing football respect. No.
They're better. They're better than Minnesota last year. What I'm saying is they're this year's version in that they're not as impressive as their record says. Yeah. They should have lost like 3 games this year that they haven't, and there's nothing about them that's incredibly impressive. They would whoop on that Vikings team from last year.
Okay. It'd
be their only impressive victory of the year if they played that Vikings team, because they don't win. Like, they struggled against Washington twice. They struggled against New England. They've struggled the last couple of weeks. Like you said, 4 weeks in a row of them trailing at halftime. Dallas, I argue, played better. I don't think Dallas is a better team. I don't think you can say that right now, but they played better against them in Philly than Philly did. And they've got the loss to the Jets. They lost to Zach Wilson. That's pretty brutal.
Okay. The Cowboys also the Arizona Cardinals.
It's Josh Dobbs. It's different. That guy's good. Zach Wilson is not good.
And you think that Philadelphia is a more dangerous playoff threat than the Vikings were last year? Which you have to. If you said Philadelphia would whoop up on Minnesota.
In that sense that they're better, sure. But I think neither one. I would never think either one of them are going to win a Super Bowl.
Okay.
I don't think this team's got a shot to win a Super Bowl. This particular Eagles
team.
They
last do have a shot because of the conference. The overriding factor in the National Football League this year, whatever team is good, they're good in part because there's no great team.
Let me see.
Kansas City's not great. San Francisco has shown flaws. Like, who's the second best team in the NFC, Bobby?
Philly.
Okay, so I'm just saying because of the flaws and because of the weakness throughout the league, they do have a chance. Just like the Cowboys do have a better chance to get to the Super Bowl than I thought they had 5 or 6 weeks ago.
Here are the playoff teams right now.
Because the NFL's weak.
Here are the playoff teams, and I'm just curious. We'll go down the list, and I'm not saying that I would pick against Philly and all these because I wouldn't. But I'm just saying I want to go down the list and see which teams you think would. Seattle versus Philly. Who would you pick?
Philly.
Atlanta.
But I don't rule out that Seattle could maybe give them a tough game.
Sure. Yeah. Atlanta.
Philly.
Okay. Minnesota.
Philly.
Dallas. Dallas is playing better football right now.
Yeah, I would probably lean towards coin flip.
Detroit.
I'd pick Philadelphia, but a little bit more of a threat than Seattle would be to the Eagles.
San Francisco. So San Francisco is the only one that you'd pick above Philadelphia right now. For sure, for certain. Do you think the other ones could give them a hard time? Or in Dallas's case, it'd be a 50-50 game?
Yes.
All right, and that's last year. I think that if you run down this list, we're probably picking Philly in all of them.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think that there's definitely, it is not just the fact that their record is the same or they're the best, record in football or whatever else does not speak to the quality of this team right now, which is they are not as good as they were last year. And I don't think they're the best team in the NFC. I think San Francisco.
Yeah, but they're number 2. If they're number 2,
and like you said, and
you're acting like that's the end of the world.
I think it's number 2 because you can't claim Detroit has struggled in recent weeks. If Detroit didn't have the struggles they did, I'd have Detroit ahead of them. Dallas is a team that right now, as soon as Dallas gets through this stretch, we might be able to say Dallas is better, but we don't know right now through the end of this stretch. I just think that when you look at this, is that I would take several AFC teams and San Francisco for sure over them, whereas last year they were consistently top 3 or whatever. And this year you can't say that about them, I don't think.
And again, it comes down to, intangibles just finds a way to win. They're champions or setting themselves up for an even bigger fall when it happens in the postseason.
By the way, that officiating, which was so awful yesterday, as we've mentioned earlier, I was listening to SiriusXM. I had to go swap out my equipment for my internet since we're moving, which then when I got home and plugged it all in, none of it worked. And they're like, well, we got to send a tech out to you, so I'm going to have to deal with that today. Hopefully my email gets to you on time today, Sean.
Yeah.
But we were...
I missed the days of Choppy's 10:30 a.m. emails before the rest of the sports happened during the day.
Yeah, hey, if you got to pick one. I was driving back, and so the first few minutes of the game I had on...
He's driving to school right now, so I know he's listening.
I had SiriusXM on, and I was listening to it had the Eagles call was the version of it. So it's generally the home team. So I was listening to it, and they were coming out of the break, and Merrill Reese and whoever else is on that call, I don't remember, was talking about, we saw something interesting coming out of when the defense got on the field. Fletcher Cox went up and shook the hands of each official out there. And they were like, I kind of like that. Maybe the Eagles will actually get some calls now. As if the Eagles are just routinely slighted by officiating.
You know, this makes us all sound whiny, though.
I don't give a damn. It's the truth. Everybody yesterday was on Twitter, like people who had no rooting interest in the game. People on Twitter go like, geez, the Bills are getting shafted here. This isn't good.
Yeah.
I mean, Romo was, and I get it, Romo's a former Cowboy, so people are going to say that's what it is. But Romo, you could hear a couple times, it's like,
he never does that either.
Yeah.
He never does that. And now Buffalo is 10th in the AFC.
Did you see Romo getting absolutely destroyed, though, for his comment about the field goal?
No.
Peyton, did you tweet about that as well? About Romo and the field goal? I thought you were one of the two.
I don't think I did.
So somebody else did, is that there were several people tweeting that, I guess Romo had said something like, well, a field goal ties it, and it said something about that while the Bills were up or down 4. And so some people were like, is he saying if the Bills score a touchdown, then the Eagles will be able to tie it? What is it? But I saw Quincy Avery, the quarterbacks coach for several different guys, Deshaun Watson, Josh Dobbs, guys like that. He said pretty directly after that, he tweeted, he said, Romo is probably the worst analyst in the game right now. And I was like, wow, now that's a take.
I don't know if I
people have pivoted on him so hard.
I don't know if I agree with that. Why is he the worst? It seems like he's toned down the
I think it's because just the things like that. Like he does say occasionally some things that's like, what do you mean a field goal ties it? It does not. What are you talking about?
Well, he
Tony?
doesn't occasionally say things like that. I haven't heard
Not
it.
that specific one, but I'm saying there's missteps like that where people are like, that's not right. Why did he just say that?
And I feel like he's probably, it feels like people are putting Olsen number 1. He's new. He gets a little generic sometimes. But I feel like Tony has the clock management stuff figured out the most.
Yes. Like when he was talking about
7 seconds and this and that.
He was great yesterday when he was talking about like, all right, you're good. You don't have to take a timeout yet. Because Romo as a player was always great in those situations. Romo like knew how to pace a 2-minute drive and knew exactly when to call a timeout, when to get up to the line.
When to tell Garrett, just stop talking.
Exactly.
I'm going to do this.
And so he had mentioned, he was like, when you get down to 45 seconds, that's when you need to use your timeout. And then they weren't, and they were kind of dragging the clock. And he's like, okay, I don't know. I'd have a little bit of urgency here. Then you get the false start. Which, by the way, the Eagles lucked out on what felt like some bad clock management from Sirianni at the end of that fourth quarter. When they were left with no timeouts left, and you're talking about, okay, if you catch a ball and get tackled in the middle of the field, you're doing an emergency rush onto the field to kick a 55-yarder in the rain.
So 2 more reasons to hate Philadelphia. You see that little punk-ass kid before? The video that's gone viral in the parking lot.
Yeah, I saw that. It was clever. I mean, it's a kid, but yeah, no, I mean, it's typical Philly.
He's wearing an Eagles jersey. He goes up to this Bills fan to shake his hand, and the Bills fan sticks his hand out like a gentleman, and then this little punk kid throws him the middle finger. Just pops him with it.
Yeah, which that's clearly parent. Go up there. Just shake his hand. I'll record you. Go shake it and then throw him up the middle finger.
Finger snapped off.
That's great parenting there in Philadelphia.
And
it's a wonder they have the crime rate they do.
And now afterwards, Shaq Lawson confronting Eagles fans. The NFL is investigating whether he shoved one of them.
Somebody shoved somewhat. Now, see, I get like there's a line.
Like 3 Bills players went up to these fans.
There's a line like we can't have malice at the palace, everything else, but fans get a little too comfortable sometimes in these scenarios and think I can just say
what you're trying to say and what you want to say is that some of them should get popped. Hit.
Some people,
Just say it.
some people deserve to realize there's a line, and if you cross it, you need to expect consequences. But that's a tough thing to do because you also can't have, like I said, these malice at the palace instances or full on assaults. But there's got to be security has to step in and start taking people like that out earlier before it gets to that point. Like there's got to be consequences for it.